So I came up with a pretty strong relic combo that I haven't really seen people talking about, but it's involving a relic that a lot of people have mixed feelings about. I am talking, yes, of course, not about Marlowe, but about the Knight of the Lord relic. You'll get this after you defeat Heliostor, and a lot of people get switched off of the fact that you have to switch your weapon because it's going to boost your attack power. You are going to receive a 10% damage boost when you do this, and you can consult again the spreadsheet that I have linked. It increases your damage by 10%. Doesn't stack, but what this does do is it will be giving you free damage each time you switch weapon, as well as it adding on a affinity when you do so. For people who don't know, because some people still don't know, you can get the same physical attack boost just by you switching from two-handed to one-handed. See, my attack still goes up. It's 138, and then when I two-hand, it's 142, right? When the attack buff goes away, you're gonna see it drops down to 229. Switching back is gonna give me the 142. With the new event that we just had with the Everdark Sovereign, it released probably, in my opinion, the best relic in the game. This is the Grand Luminous Stone that's gonna give you attack power permanently increased for each jailed prisoner defeated. Now, for most people who already know, this is going to be increasing your attack by 5% each jail you complete. So that's going to be stacking up if you prioritize jails, which it does give you a slightly different routing plan, because a lot of times like you would hit up castles so you can get more levels, and with this jail strategy, the way I've been seeing it, you actually don't really prioritize castle. You might do the bottom basement boss, but like at most that's probably all you're doing. So what does this all mean? So this is a strict improvement from my last build that I talked about in a previous video, where I made the argument that this was the best build that you could have for anything that involves you buffing your weapon with some type of added affinity. So for example, I'm using the Wilder. The follow-up is enchanting my sword with fire. This is gonna meet the requirement for adding a affinity on my weapon, and it's great because it uses no stamina. So if we look in the sparring grounds, no stamina on that at all. To buff my weapon and do an attack, like this actually costs no stamina, meaning if you're on burnout and you're recovering your stamina, you can still use this move and you can buff your weapon and attack at the same time, trying to make the case that it's actually not that bad to do something like that. I've heard a lot of other YouTubers, should I say the name? In my opinion, I actually do feel like it's rather slept on, and if you don't know what to slot in your build, I don't see a world where you go wrong putting on the Knight of the Lord. It literally just gives you 20% damage for free, and even if you don't like to switch your weapons so you can get that boost, just two-handing to one-hand to get 10% extra damage. Not a lot of things in this game provide you like strictly 10% more damage unless it's like character specific. So I made this variation with the Wilder, and as you can see in the gameplay, I was actually doing a lot of damage to the new Sovereign when I was playing solo, and he resists fire damage, yet I was still doing like very solid, respectable damage. So I was pretty impressed by the showcase, and it showed me that this was strictly better from my last build, because the ever jail percentage increase goes past 10% obviously if you complete more than 2 jails. So for that run, because I completed 4 jails, I got literally 40 extra damage. I got 40% more extra damage. I got percentage, sorry. I got 40% more extra damage, and that's not even counting the physical attack up, which is also giving me 3% more damage. So I literally got 43% more damage, which just eclipsed this build where I was only getting 30%. So this one relic helps combo a lot, in my opinion, with Knight of the Lord. And something else that I discovered, in case you don't want to run, say for example, the if you don't use the Wilder, right, and you still want to get that same 10%, anything that has this buff, improved attack power with 3+ whatever weapon type, I think that's pretty slept on as well. Because if you think about it, when you play a character, you're gonna get weapons in your run that give you that character's weapon type that they specialize in. Like, you have a higher drop rate chance. That's just like, think of each run you've had, you've gotten at least more than one of your specific character's weapon type, unless they're the Revenant. Don't make that joke. So you can have this, and that will give you another 10% boost to your damage. This is actually going to synergize very well with Night of the Lord, because if you think about it, right, we'll go to the sparring grounds, and I'm going to show, I forgot to name my character, but pretty much, say if you're playing the Raider and you want to use this build and you're not a fan of switching around too much because it might throw off your momentum, which is pretty fair and valid, but I will at least make the case that if you have this and you have 3 great axes that all do respectable damage, you can literally just switch, and then you can attack with it, and then when the buff runs out, just switch to your next one. You get a different element, and even if you're fighting a specific boss, say for example Caligo, where he's weak to fire and he's like resistant to other forms of damage, you can just again do the two-handing to one-handing you can again do the two-handing to one-hand switching method to just get the free 10%. So it's versatile in the fact that you can choose whether or not you want to switch to get the extra damage as well as buffing your weapon, or if you don't want to do that, you can just switch from two-handing to one-handing. I will also say that if you look here, right? Why are you biting my shirt, Marlo? That's not nice. So you see how with one two-handed light attack, we do 325 damage. So that's because we currently don't have the buff where we have the 3 great axes. And you can actually check to see which weapon type a certain armament is by going to the sparring. And you can press the visual codex info to see on the top right what type of weapon it is. So because this is a great axe, I know that I need to be looking for this and that this is a great axe that will count towards this. Using something like the Raider's basic, this is a colossal weapon. It's not a great axe. The Axe of Godfrey is not an axe. It's so weird. It's a colossal weapon. So if you're gonna use this strategy instead, make sure you know what weapon type you're using so that you're not wasting damage. Because now that I properly have 3 great axes, you'll see that when I attack, I'm now doing 357. So this is just doing 30 more damage compared to what I was doing the last time. And that's all because I just have 3 great axes equipped. And again, this is going to synergize very well with the Night of the Lord because it's not going to cost you that much to switch between your weapons. See, now I'm doing 408, and that's all because I'm synergizing with 3 plus of the same weapon type equipped. Now I don't mind too much switching from one to the next because of the fact that I am using the exact same weapon type. It's not really throwing me off my mojo too much. Why do you bind my shirt? Now, if you don't want to run something like this because you prioritize the specific character skill relics more, I do definitely understand that, because if you wanted to run the relic, which if we pull up here, the Raider, he has a specific relic that allows him to do more damage on his guaranteed relics. We can see right here, damage taken while using character skill. This still boosts the Raider's damage by 10% for 20 seconds. So if you want to use something like this instead, that's also viable because you're hitting that 10% boost. In my opinion, you should always look for relics that boost your damage by 10% if you're looking for something that boosts your damage, because stuff like fire attack up +2, like it's only increasing your damage by 6.5%. If you're someone like the Recluse, where you're using a lot of different fire weapons and just different sources of fire damage, like fire dragon breath or flame sling, black flame orb, all those things, that makes sense because it's covering a wider gambit of things that are boosted by that. So the 6.5 is at least giving you a bit more mileage. But if you're going into something like very hyper specific, like a niche, right, just by doing 6 jails, you can get 30% extra damage. And then that's stacking with the Night of the Lord, so now you're doing 50% extra damage just for you either switching your weapon or going from two-handing to one-handing, and then having something like 3 plus of that one weapon type equipped, because this can give you upwards of 60% extra damage Folks, that is a lot. That is a lot of damage, and you just, it's so hard to ignore. Because the Knight of the Lord combined with this, I feel like it just combos very well with having 3 of the same weapon type equipped, because you're not losing much momentum when all you're doing is switching to another greatsword, if using the Wilder as an example. So here I'll have some gameplay of me fighting the Everdark Sovereign on my own using the same build that I showed you on screen for the Wilder. Use the group member password Wisdom W, because this is going to allow you to see more people who are playing in their runs, people who have died. You can get all of their loot, and more importantly, if you did not know, if you come over here to the roundtable hold, you'll see people who've completed runs. You could be getting 1,000 free Murk. Bro, use the group password, I'm telling you. Despite him being resistant to fire, I was still able to clutch up a win. So if you want to see more tips and tricks like this, let me know. And I'm considering dropping a combat guide to break down and show you guys everything I know on how to play the game more efficiently, doing things like roll backstabs, turnaround backstabs, maximizing your invincibility frames, routing. So if you guys would like to see another video like that, please let me know. Join the Discord, which is going to be in the description, to talk with me directly, as well as talking to a lot of people who's in the community who loves to do runs and beat the shit out of the Gaping Jaw, because me and you, we all hate the Everdark Sovereign.
Stagger. You're done. I'm not my own yet.